You aren't what you eat, you are what you absorb. My name is Diego Reyes, functional hybrid health coach, functional nutritionist. I'm here to tell you today the real rundown on gut issues and gut problems. I want to talk about in this video, I want to give you the complete guide, not no training, just real heart to heart talk on, gut issues, gut problems, and actually how to solve them. Many people are just, talking about the symptoms of bloating, fatigue. They're talking about leaky gut, SIBO, IBS, but no one really tells you on what you should be doing. Now, the only reason why I'm really here today is that I really want to tell you through all the actual practice that I do with my clients and actually in the research, study on a daily basis, because this is what I do for my living. This is my job. So I want to give you exactly on what you should be doing. Okay, so to start things off, there is a difference between gut health and gut healing. Okay, so gut health is just keeping your gut optimal, long term. But then gut healing is the actual process of healing the microbiome. So let's start off with the functional approach to gut health and then the Western medicine approach. So the Western medicine approach, like when you go see your primary care doctor, even a gastroenterologist, they're kind of just looking at the gut as just a digestive organ. They're not looking at it as like it's the second brain or it influences other areas of your body like your thyroid and your hormones or insulin as well. They're looking at it as just you digest food and that's it. They're not looking at it as like this is a part of the eradicate system of your body. So functional medicine, functional nutrition, we're looking at the gut as it is the center of everything. But it, just like your body works in unison, it also works in unison as well. Okay, so people look at the gut as the second brain, meaning that when you are struggling with gut issues or whatever, it can also influence your mental health. Okay, and there's a lot of research out there on that with neurodegenerative diseases or neurodegenerative issues such as ADHD, OCD, and then we go on the other sides of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Now, all those can stem back to poor gut health because what happens is that the gut gets inflamed and then it causes immunological response within the body, which then causes inflammation within the body, but then what causes something called neural inflammation, meaning there's inflammation in the brain. Okay, so we're talking about Western medicine, the difference between functional, Western, and then we kind of get into, obviously Western medicine, when they're looking at gut issues, whether it be like heartburn, different types of gut problems, they're using antibiotics, Tums, PPIs, or anything like that to help with gut motility or gut health. And obviously those cause many types of issues. Um, so there's many different types of gut bacteria within you. And this isn't the episode to talk about the gut bacteria and things like that. But this just to give you an overview of, you obviously have so much bacteria in your gut, microbes, and when they become imbalanced, that's when there's issues. Some, issues like SIBO, H. pylori, Candida, even when there's parasites or worms or anything like that, giving you the worst symptoms. And so let's get into some of the things that indicate poor gut health. Like everyone's, I'm sure that you know that like bloating, constipation, acid reflux, heartburn, GERD-like symptoms all stem back to all stem back to the gut. But there are many other things that can influence your gut health. So there are many things that can indicate that you have a poor gut microbiome besides the usual bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, heartburn, and GERD-like symptoms. So the first thing is actually like a lot of allergies, because so I want to talk about which before about 70 to 80% of your immune system is housed in the gut. So with incompromised gut, you have an incompromised immune system, which then happens is that you start to get these allergies out of nowhere, just the worst. And it's an immunological response of your body, which can stem from a poor gut. Going back to that, talking about the brain as well and mental health illnesses, besides neural inflammation, you have around 80% of your neurotransmitters are housed in your gut. Specifically, 95% of serotonin is synthesized in your gut. So with a poor gut microbiome, then you have poor neurotransmitter, um, sufficiency. Because a lot of the issues is that you have low either serotonin, low dopamine, okay? But remember, that's getting synthesized in the gut. So if you have a poor gut health, bacteria overgrowth, leaky gut, or anything like that, that will, compromise the, neurotransmitter transmission within the brain and the gut. So it's the gut-brain axis. Going back to it, autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's can stem from poor gut health, from leaky gut. Obviously, IBD, so Crohn's, colitis, things like that. There's a lot of research, a lot of evidence, okay, that um, that a poor gut can be the root cause of an autoimmune like condition. So when I'm dealing with people like Hashimoto's and things like that, which I get a lot in my coaching practice, is when I start fixing the gut lining, when I start flushing the bad bacteria out of the gut, repairing it, giving it immunoglobulins, having it with proper nutrition, they start to lower the antibodies. They start to go into remission, and it's because we're working on the gut. I'm doing a lot of other things as well with movement, lifestyle, and things like that. But correcting the gut will indefinitely help you with your autoimmune condition. Bone health. Obviously, if you not are, this goes into, which I'll get into, pancreatic sufficiency. So if you're dealing with a lot of heartburn, GERD-like symptoms, that's a sign of low stomach acid. Contrary to popular belief, they believe that it's high stomach acid. Well, you see today, I'll talk about it's actually low stomach acid for a majority of cases, not all, for a majority. So if you're not absorbing your food, obviously your bone doesn't have the minerals like calcium for you to actually, have it be functioning or strengthened. Brain health, we obviously went into that, and then thyroid health. Now, there's many other issues that can stem from poor gut, but I want to, emphasize on this. I'll actually go into hormonal imbalances. I'll drop these. Actually, I'm going to make these. This is going to be a note below in the description, so you actually have like a sheet to go on. So hormonal imbalances. If you have poor gut health, you have poor hormone health. Okay. Yeah, there's many things in there. So let's first talk about some issues. Like obviously skin issues, diabetes, cancer, all that can also stem from poor gut health. Now, today I want to talk about a few different issues that come with gut health. Inflammation, low gut diversity, leaky gut, low enzyme and bile production, and then SIBO. All right. So let's start with inflammation. So a lot of these problems that stem in the gut are from inflammation. Inflammation is the body's natural response to like either injury or infection. It's actually good for you because it's actually on the process of hormesis, which if you don't know anything about hormesis, it means a bad thing, meaning it means a bad thing is a good thing. Okay, so it's a stress on the body. So like working out, okay, that's a stress on the body, but it's good. Okay, that the stress causes inflammation, but that inflammation creates growth. You get stronger, you get more muscle tissue and things like that. So inflammation is not bad, but it's when the inflammation becomes chronic. So people have chronic inflammation from poor diet, poor lifestyle, things that they're doing to themselves, drinking a ton of alcohol, caffeine, coffee. Okay, now that inflammation has prolonged, okay, medications like NSAIDs, anti-inflammatory ones, PPIs. Now this chronic inflammation just became chronic. This inflammation became chronic, okay, which then eradicates the gut microbiome. Okay, and then low diversity in the gut. Now this isn't talked about a lot, but it actually happens to a lot of people. Low diversity means you don't have enough good microbiome or microbes inside your microbiome. Because majority of people are looking at like SIBO and bacterial overgrowth, but actually some people are dealing with just too little of bacteria in their gut, good bacteria. Okay, so which can lead, and there's clear evidence talking about the more diverse your microbiome is, the better you are health-wise. So here's how to get, if you're dealing with this inflammation, you have to get to the root cause of your gut inflammation. Okay, so you can implement an anti-inflammatory diet, which I'll get into later. You got to eliminate food reactions, food allergens, okay, that can, trigger that response in the gut for it to be, off. And then you want to remove the chronic use of PPIs and NSAIDs, okay, and then you want to incorporate inflammatory reducing supplements, such as like curcumin, omega-3s, and things like that. Okay, so you can support the body through supplementation and nutrition. Okay, so using something called polyphenols. Polyphenols are found in fruits and vegetables. Okay, they're what actually make the fruit and vegetable their colors. Okay, so you have like resveratrol, curcumin, quercetin. and things like that. So fruit and vegetables are super good for your gut. Okay, the polyphenols. Okay, and then obviously using things like aloe vera really help the gut lining, reducing inflammation. Okay, so let's get into the topic of probiotics. So probiotics are very useful, but they're not the end all be all for your gut health. Okay, so if you're dealing with a bacteria overgrowth and you just take a probiotic, then you can make the imbalance even worse. But let's talk about probiotics abroad. So obviously, probiotics can help balance the gut microbiota, strengthen the intestinal barrier, so your gut lining, and then obviously reduce inflammation. Now, there's more literature coming out on a daily basis about the benefits of probiotics. Um, and obviously, there's a lot of different mechanisms, and we're not even sure on the exact mechanisms of how they work, but obviously, they're getting investigated at the moment. So what one thing we do know though is that the probiotic bacteria like Lactobacillus, Acidophilus, like those type of bacteria can compete with harmful pathogens within the gut. Okay, so your gut can only have so much bacteria in there, so they have to essentially fight for binding sites. And what happens is that if there's an overgrowth of bad bacteria, then obviously it takes that binding site over. But with probiotics, they compete for it. Okay, obviously therefore preventing the colonization of the infection. And also probiotics can repair, you know can be part of the repair process of leaky gut. My apologies. Of leaky gut or increased permeability. Okay, so probiotics can strengthen the gut barrier, which is actually pretty surprising to me because, like, when we're looking at probiotics, we're just thinking of bacteria, but we don't really even think about it as it being something to help you with, um, your gut lining. So very useful. So I'll link a probiotic below in the description. Flora Protect is my favorite. Also, I have a discount code from the company if you want to support me in my business. That'd be amazing. So next is polyphenols, what I was just talking about. So polyphenols act like a prebiotic substance, meaning they increase the number of healthy bacteria in the gut. Now remember, polyphenols are different types of foods that carry these, polyphenols, such as, like curcumin, quercetin, resveratrol, and things like that. So pretty much polyphenols can be found in virtually in all plants. Up to 95% of polyphenols you eat travel undigested to the colon. This is important because, like, in fact, if you're dealing with IBS or colitis, you actually want to stay away from plants or fiber, which is a whole different topic. But if your body's already in an inflammatory state, like we said before, now see, this is why there's a difference between gut healing and gut health. But if your body's already super inflamed and you eat a bunch of polyphenols that travel undigested in the colon, you're just going to, irritate your gut lining even more. So that's why it actually is all right to take a time off where you're not eating any polyphenols or such as plants, essentially. But they can inhibit the growth of bad, harmful bacteria. And then you have prebiotic foods, pretty much are foods that feed the microbiome, which actually our diet is just not even in it. So see, this is actually a thing that I do with my clients. I give them the exact meal plan of the right calorie intake, the right macros, the right polyphenol-rich foods, the right prebiotic-rich foods, all of the things. So there's so much that go into it, fiber. And so, that's why it's so crucial to have a health coach perhaps in your healing journey, because they are educating you. They're giving you everything you need. There's no second guessing. And the end result is just feeling and looking good. Okay. Sorry, sidetrack here. Next topic, leaky gut and low enzyme production. The gut lining is composed of cells on something called the mucosa. Okay. And I don't want to get too much into it, but I want you to think about your gut lining like this. They're tacked together. It's tacked. There's a gut lining. And when you continue to stress out, eat a lot of inflammatory foods and things like that, it starts to split. And when it starts to split, you see it becomes permeable, meaning it can leak through like a sponge. So when it can leak through, it can leak into your bloodstream, causing that inflammatory immunological response, which then triggers, neural inflammation in the brain, fatigue, brain fog, okay, and then all sorts of other issues, particularly when this happens, when you have a leaky gut and it flows into the bloodstream. This type of inflammation can trigger something called lipopolysaccharides, LPS. These lipopolysaccharides can inhibit the conversion of T4 into T3. So this isn't talked about, but a majority of the time when you're struggling with a thyroid, hypothyroidism type thyroid issue, it can stem from poor gut health because that conversion is getting hindered from the inflammatory response that's happening in the GI tract. Okay, going into the next topic. Let's go. Symptoms of leaky gut, obviously brain fog, fatigue, joint stiffness, food sensitivities, and food allergens. When you have an inflamed, leaky gut, when you have a gut that's already inflamed, that's leaky, so it's permeable, there's the food's going in the bloodstream. No wonder why you can't eat gluten, wheat, soy. No wonder why you can't eat certain foods, because your gut is so inflamed, it doesn't want to even digest and assimilate it. Okay, food cravings, like sugar cravings, are a big thing with a leaky gut. Acne, rashes, and then nutritional deficiencies. Iron, vitamin D, things like that. This can stem from poor gut health because remember, you're digesting and assimilating the food. So what causes a leaky gut? Chronic inflammation from either overexercising, undereating, too much processed food, things like that. Infections or dysbiosis. If you have an imbalance of gut bacteria within the gut, or you have some type of infection like Epstein-Barr virus, that can inevitably cause a poor gut lining. Medications such as NSAIDs, hormonal birth control, things like that can disturb the microbiome, causing it to become, your intestinal lining to become permeable, which then, eradicates all these issues. Impaired digestion, which we'll actually get into, like low stomach acid, poor pancreatic enzymes or bile acids can, contribute to a leaky gut. Nutrient deficiency, stress, and trauma, so many different things. Okay, so there's obviously clear evidence between leaky gut and autoimmune issues. Okay, because when you are eating different foods like gluten and things like, it can cause that flare up coming from a leaky gut. So there's definitely evidence there. There's evidence there of chronic stress and leaky gut. Now let's talk about chronic stress and gut health. When you continually stress from, stress comes in many forms, undereating, overtraining, too much emotional stress, past trauma. When you are stressing out like that, it slows down your digestive enzyme secretion. And so when you start to slow that down, you don't have enough stomach acid for you to digest and assimilate food, because stomach acid is your first line of defense for your gut. And so what then happens is that there's a bacterial overgrowth that can occur, something like H. pylori, for example. And when that happens, then you actually have like an array of different issues going on. But, that's just to talk about what's happening with, chronic stress and leaky gut, or gut health, perhaps. So what happens then also is that it can cause that immune response within the gut. Obviously, when you have all that stress going on and then it impairs gut health, it will impair immune system, which then will cause an immunological attack on your body, which then you'll get the autoimmune-like issue, like Hashimoto's, for example. So let's talk about testing. So I'm not going to talk about testing for leaky gut because you can actually. Just testing abroad. So there's many tests that you can do for your gut, but what I suggest is a GI map, a stool test. That is the number one that I suggest and that I use in my practice for healing my clients' guts and for getting them to look their best. And so with a GI map, you're measuring, good bacteria, bad bacteria, all other things. And you can even do zonulin, which can show like your, levels of, how well your gut line is intact. So let's talk about how to support and fix a leaky gut. Elimination diet, anti-inflammatory diet, remove food problems associated with leaky gut, okay? So like synthetic dietary emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial sweeteners, alcohol, gluten, things like that. A lot of things that happen in the gut healing process is actually removing the things that negatively affect the gut. All right, let's talk about digestive insufficiency. This is like, if you are dealing with GERD or acid reflux or anything like that, this is for you. Digestion is a complex process that involves several key components, including hydrochloric acid, pancreatic enzymes, and bile salts. So they all play pivotal roles in digesting and assimilating the food. Okay, and so let's get into it. So hypochlorhydria. So this means that you have low stomach acid, and it's actually the reason why you're having these GERD-like symptoms for majority of people. Now, there every now and then it is from too much stomach acid, but majority of the time, most people dealing with acid reflux, GERD, heartburn, and things like that, that's from low stomach acid, so that's called hypochlorhydria. Okay, so how can you actually fix hypochlorhydria? Well, let's first talk about acid reflux. Okay, because there's an estimate that 60 million Americans experience acid reflux at least once per month, and there are over 15 million Americans experience acid reflux on a daily basis. Okay, and for many people, they're getting prescribed like you know uh, H2 receptor blockers that lower stomach acid, or omeprazole and things like that. But those, long term can, create an overgrowth in the gut, such as you getting like a SIBO type issue. Okay, so but over 90% of acid reflux causes stem from low stomach acid. Okay, so when stomach acid is insufficient, it can't kill the harmful bacteria that needs to be killed when it goes through the digestive process. Okay, and so this also goes into something called migrating motor complex. And I'm not going to get into that, but essentially the clearance and movement of food within your digestive system, digestive tract, during periods of fasting or not eating. It kind of cleans out the body, and that's a whole topic in itself. But obviously, what are some causes of hypochlorhydria, aka low stomach acid, aka GERD? Overuse of antibiotics, H. pylori infection, chronic stress, poor diet, eating on the go too quickly, overuse of NSAIDs, and using PPIs. So, what are some things that you can do to help with your low stomach acid hypochlorhydria? Using zinc carnosine is super good. Herbal bitters like antimicrobials, hydrochloric acid, and betaine. If you go to my episode 2 of tear dysfunction, so it's tier 2 gut dysfunction on my YouTube, you'll see the whole breakdown on low stomach acid. So I suggest you go in there if you struggle with that. And then let's talk about the last thing, and that is pretty much SIBO, because SIBO is the root cause of many IBS cases. SIBO means small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Okay, so let's get into it. So SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is exactly what it sounds like, an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine. So majority of the time, the small intestine actually has lower bacteria than the large intestine. Okay, but in SIBO, obviously, there's more bacteria in the small intestine than there should be. Okay, what then happens is that bacteria in the small intestine ferments starches and fibers that are in our diet. Okay, so the bacteria starts to overgrowth, and then it starts to, ferment that starch and the fiber in our diet. Okay, which then produces gas byproducts. Okay, and so the accumulation of those gases in the small intestine can, cause the discomfort that you feel with SIBO/IBS cases, like bloating and distension, especially throughout the day, because now you're building up more gas. Okay, so this can lead to many issues. SIBO can lead to many issues like damage to the gut lining, such as like a leaky gut, nutrient deficiencies, because it can lead to malabsorption of food. So if you have low iron, low ferritin, that can be caused from, bacterial overgrowth, or, well, nutrient deficiencies can come from the bad overgrowth. And so what are the root cause of SIBO? Impaired motility, going back to the migrating motor complex, your gut clearing out all the food and digestion process. Okay, so if you don't have a good gut motility, meaning the movement of food, then that will obviously, back things up and cause an imbalance of bacteria, aka SIBO. Impaired digestion, if you don't, going back to heart, acid reflux, hypochlorhydria, if you aren't digesting, assimilating food properly, then obviously it can lead to that, just like motility. And then medications. Medications is so huge, being the contribution to SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Okay, let's get into it for a second. Narcotics, oxycodone. So narcotics like oxycodone and morphine can slow down gut motility. And it's actually something called opioid-induced constipation. Okay, so what happens is you have slowed down gut motility, which can lead to overgrowth and imbalances. chronic use of protein pump inhibitors, aka PPIs. Okay, so by reducing the stomach acid, it creates a less acidic environment for your gut, which then can contribute to an overgrowth of bacteria. Okay, and then T4 medication, levothyroxine, synthroid, those things can slow down gut motility, which then can lead to gut imbalances. All right, so how can we fix SIBO? Anti-inflammatory diet, and then you want to eliminate the overgrowth with antimicrobials. Now, I have many videos on my YouTube right now that explain the exact process on how to get rid of SIBO. I suggest you go in there. This is just an overview, more face-to-face, so definitely there. So let's get into like just diet strategies. So some things on diet and gut health, because no one wants to talk about that. So let's talk about diet for a second. Obviously, your diet is the biggest thing for your gut health because you're ingesting the food. So that is very, as being a nutritionist too, like that's the biggest thing that we want to focus on is the thing that we're ingesting because that's obviously influence our gut. Okay. So the first thing is we want to, eat an anti-inflammatory diet. Okay. Vegetables. Okay. Different types of greens that carry all these polyphenols like we talked to before. Animal proteins and fish. Okay. These things are all good for you. Okay. Healthy fats and oils. Avocado. What olive oil, MCT oil, and then healthy fats. There are many out there like almonds and things like that. Fruit is super good for you. Eat fruit. Nuts and seeds obviously are good for you. All types, flaxseed, chia seeds, pistachios, all of it's really good for you. And then spices. So and then let's get into some things that you want to stay away from. Just for like general purposes, but like for your gut health. Cereal grains are definitely something you want to stay away from. Omega-6 seed oils, the industrial seed oils, those things can irritate the gut, okay, causing inflammation and obviously causing all the eradications that we've spoken about prior. Okay, and then processed soy, obviously, artificial sweeteners and food additives. Stay away from these things, and I promise you, your gut health and your gut will be happier. So let's talk about using my actual approach on healing the gut. So when I'm healing the gut, I'm using a 5R process. Okay, 5R means reduce the negative things that affect the bacteria or affect the gut, perhaps. Okay, remove the bad bacteria out of the gut. Okay, replace with digestive enzymes. Okay, repair / re-inoculate. Okay, we want to repair the gut lining and we want to bring back good bacteria, and then we want to rebalance it for long-term health because there's a lot of rebound that happens. Now, rebalancing is the lifelong commitment of healthy gut microbiome because I want you to come to me and then be the end of it all. Now, this is a lot of information. If you are struggling with gut issues, don't prolong it. Don't knot it off. Okay? It leads to so many issues. Dry hair, dry skin, acne, fatigue, brain fog, low libido, hormone imbalance, PMS. All of these things can stem from a poor gut health. Now, if you're struggling with gut issues and you want the fast roadmap, like legitimate help from someone who understands, okay, who's had loved ones and that's why he's in this, do it. Then reach out to me today. Okay, I own a coaching company called Complete Vitality. We are a hybrid coaching company. We bring fitness and functional nutrition together to create you and give you the best outcomes possible. If you'd like to heal your gut, message me gut today.